I'm going to call this joint meeting of Nash and Edgecombe County Commissioners to order, and I'm going to ask Commissioner Wells to lead us in the invocation.
I'm going to do something a little different because we're all here in conflict in a way. Would you please hold hands as we say the prayer this morning?
Why not stand?
Now, Father, we come together this morning. God, we come together separated about certain things about educating our children. But God, we're all together when we know that you are the supreme being. And we know that you can help us work through these problems. And God, we just need to have an open mind as we listen this morning and listen to each side. And God, the first thing we need to do is remember we have to educate our children. But be with each county, God, because we have to look out for the citizens in our county. We just asked you to be in the midst of this meeting. Lead us in the way you would have us go. And God, may we all leave here friends. In your precious name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Yeah.
I'd like to call the Edgecombe County Commissioners to order. Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
All right. Yeah, should have done that in the beginning. We are here in the second meeting to come up with a solution to issues that have been raised about our Nash Rocky Mountain school system. In our last meeting, I presented a proposed solution. Nash County Board looked at my proposal and we kind of changed some words to make it more clarifying to some that may have some questions. And I'll go through this and read these. I don't know what Clerk Janice, did the press get copies of this?
There's some extras up here.
Then your board, do they have?
Yes, we got that, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, I have 7 suggestions here. Edgecombe County shall be responsible for 100% of all capital projects. That include capital outlay, renovations, additions, and new construction for school facilities on the Edgecombe County side of Rocky Mountain, including maintenance costs. Edgecombe County shall be responsible for the appropriate amount of maintenance costs and debt service at the Rocky Mountain High School, the Early College, and Tar River Academy based on annual student attendance at these schools. Edgecombe County shall be responsible for funding current expense on a per student basis with Nash County each year. All elementary and middle students residing on the Edgecombe side of Rocky Mountain that are located in the Nash Rocky Mountain school system shall attend schools on the Edgecombe County side of the city, and all students residing in Nash County shall only attend schools located in Nash County. All students in the Nash Rocky Mountain system living on the Edgecombe County side of Rocky Mountain in grades 9 through 12 shall attend Rocky Mountain High School, the Early College, or Tar River Academy. Edgecombe County and Nash County shall proportionally share the cost of maintenance and capital outlay, renovations, additions, and new construction related to the Resource Center and Child Nutrition Building based on the percentage of students from each county in the Nash Rocky Mountain system. Edgecombe County shall consent to be a co-defendant in any school funding lawsuit brought by the Nash Rocky Mountain school system. We have, this is our recommendation coming from Nash County, and we are all in agreement with this from our board. And this is our proposal to Edgecombe County.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we did have a lengthy discussion on your proposal to our county, and we're going to ask our county manager to be our designee to respond to what Nash County has, Nash County's proposal.
And this is simply, good morning, everyone. This is simply a response to each of the 7 points that were outlined. The board had some lengthy discussion about this last night and have directed me to summarize their response to each point. So point number 1 of the proposal regarding 100% responsibility for capital projects for facilities on the Edgecombe County side of Rocky Mount. The board's response is an agreement to have some further discussion. There is a need to have some discussion about the details, how funding, what those projections may be, and how those projects would be approved. Point number 2, Edgecombe being responsible for the proportionate amount of maintenance cost debt service to the Rocky Mount High School, Early College, and Tar River Academy based on annual student attendance. Agree with the explicit understanding that Edgecombe provides no funding for the schools not listed. Point number 3, Edgecombe shall be responsible for funding current expense on a per student basis with Nash County each year. There was no agreement. Edgecombe County will ask if the City of Rocky Mount can designate sales tax revenues generated from the Edgecombe County side of Rocky Mount to cover the current expense differential. Point number 4, all elementary and middle school students residing on the Edgecombe side of Rocky Mount located in the Nash school system will attend schools on the Edgecombe side, and all students residing on the Nash County side shall attend schools located on the Nash County side. There was an agreement, but the board felt like that there needs to be some flexibility given to the Nash Rocky Mount school system to assign students in special exceptions where the need is warranted. Point number 5, all students in the Nash Rocky Mount school system living on the Edgecombe side, county side of Rocky Mount grades 9 through 12 shall attend Rocky Mount High, the Early College, or Tar River Academy, and there was agreement on that point. Number 6, Edgecombe and Nash counties shall proportionally share the cost of maintenance, capital outlay, renovation, additions, construction, so forth, for the resource center and child nutrition building based on the percentage of students, and there's agreement on point number 6. And the final point, Edgecombe shall consent to be a co-defendant of any school funding lawsuit brought by the Nash Rocky Mount school system, and there was no agreement on point number 7. So those are the responses to the 7 points of the proposed settlement agreement, and as presented by consent from the commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, we believe that our board has made some movement in terms of, in what Nash County has requested of us in terms of attempting to reach an agreement, and that is where we are on the proposal that's come to us from. We also sometimes in the past sent a letter requesting that a third party be put into place, so as this has been some movement with the boards, and the third party would probably could generate more movement. We believe that third party could come from the Institute of Government, or even maybe a request of the court to appoint a third party to help to mediate this issue. We do not believe that at this time this is a General Assembly issue.
Okay, at this point, I think we need to have some discussion on these 7 points. I see 2 of them, no agreement. Number 1, further discussion. And I think we ought to start with that one now. What were your concerns, number 1?
Number one, well, I guess we just didn't know what the figures, the amount, you know, there was no way for us to have an amount, and it was hard for us to get our hand around what our cost might be. And if we had some other costs in terms of, I think from the majority of the board, it felt like there could be some movement in agreeing, but we just didn't know what we were agreeing to there. And any board member over here that wants to help get in, please get in. If I have not, go ahead, Mr. Wood.
We discussed on that point that we weren't quite sure. We know the Nash Rocky Mountain CIP plan called for $26 million in the facilities located on the Edgecombe County side, and we just wanted to have more clarification about that and have time to study that. I and the board were not opposed to picking up the capital projects on the Edgecombe County side. We just need to know what monies might be spent.
Well, that's something that we need to work out. And Commissioner Davis, you have a comment?
You go ahead, Mr.
Go ahead. Yes,
Well, the way I would envision it would be that would then become y'all's decisions to make, working through our school board, or through the Nash Rocky Mountain School Board, and
We assumed as well. We just,
right.
we
I
wanted to
mean,
discuss it.
I don't think it would be up to us.
That'll be on here.
Right, I don't think it would be up to us to tell you what that cost would be.
Right.
It would be what the bearer could provide for your schools on the Edgecombe side, because it would be Edgecombe County students attending those schools if we agreed on everything on here.
Well, I think we just wanted to clarify that and know
Right.
that
Does anybody see it any different than that? I think that would be in y'all's control.
Right.
Well,
I think, my opinion on this, excuse me.
You go ahead.
Go ahead, Don.
Well, my question is, you say we were controlled, but we have no representation, so we really don't have any control. So how would we even get an idea? I know it goes back to the school board to decide, but we're left hanging with no way to
Mr.
have
Fowler,
input.
why is y'all's board any different than our board as it relates to the relationship with the school system? We really have no control on what's left on Nash side either. So that's just the way it is. I think, the relationship between the Board of Commissioners and the school board throughout the state.
Well, I agree with that, but at this point, there's too many unknowns based on this statement, I think, is what we're saying, and if y'all disagree, say so. It was a broad statement, is the way I read it, as far as what that figure could possibly go from and to in the future, but you're saying that we would control that.
It would have to be that way. I mean, and we would take responsibility of controlling what's on the Nash side. You know, y'all seem extremely reluctant to spend any money on any facilities on the Nash side. So we would then just each do our part, whatever we could afford to do.
we thought that would be the understanding.
I do too. We have proposed that we would spend money, but that we had agreed to capital outlay somewhere in our negotiations in the past, so I disagree with the reluctance on that.
I do too. I think we've proven over the years with your high school. I mean, we have a big investment in your high school. No question about that. And we don't expect you to educate or provide facilities for our kids that live in the city of Rocky Mountain and go to your schools. We don't want a free load on you. We want to pay our fair share. But we don't want to be taken advantage of either. And we don't want to help you build a school in Red Oak, for example. And what I'm concerned about, have a big concern about, is the priority that has been in the past, so that the schools on Edgecombe, from what I've been told, and I haven't toured those schools, so I'm really going mostly on what I hear. But those schools, I understand, are in serious need of repair to just get up to good, safe standards. And so I have a concern about that from the standpoint of number one. I agree with you, Mr. Davis, that it is our responsibility under this plan to be sure that those schools are what they should be. But I have some concerns about that because of potential neglect that has occurred over the years in the past. My main concern, I think that can probably be worked out, and I don't think there's anything in this 7-item list that can't be worked out except 3 and 7. And I think that's where we need to spend our time discussing. Our position is the city of Rocky Mount has a tremendous vested interest in the Nash County school system. Okay?
I understand.
Do you agree with that?
I agree with the statement you made, yes, sir.
Okay. So number 3 is a hang-up for us because of that. Number 7, we think might have been added by your group as a bargaining chip. Because I think we made it pretty plain when we were here previously that we're not going to agree to be defendants in the lawsuit brought by your school system. That's not going to happen. We've been advised by our attorneys that that's not going to happen. So that's got to come off for sure. Number 3, we can still talk about. I mean, I'm just telling you where I see our board at this time. And as I said last time, I'm looking forward to Doug Saw's barbecue today, right? But that's about 2 hours, about an hour and a half or so from now. If we're going to sit here and waste our time for an hour and a half, I got better things to do. If we can't get down to the meat of this situation and try to come to some kind of agreement between us on the thing that's holding us apart, you know, we do need an arbitrator. We do need somebody to come in and say, this is where you guys are screwing up and where you're not listening and what you need to do. And, you know, and if that's where we're at, then let's do that. As Mr. Boswell Billy once said.
I think our chairman
Number
wanted.
3, let me say this about number 3. Basically, number 3 is you're picking up where with Rocky Mount being out of, they've been paying the difference.
Right.
You know, on students.
That's right.
Basically, they're taking out and you pick that portion up. That's all it's saying.
That's what now?
That's all it's saying.
And
Be
what?
responsible.
What is it?
And what we're saying, what we've said there, Mr. Belfield, is that we believe that the Rocky Mount, we have no willingness for Rocky Mount to be a funding partner.
To not be a
Not to
To
be
not,
one.
to not be a funding partner.
Yeah.
Well,
That's a stick, Mr. Belfield.
well, that's gonna be a big hang-up.
Well, if it's a hang-up, it's a hang-up that we will not get over. Ms. Harris?
When the first conversation started on this Rocky Mount piece, it was presented to us was because they were using Nash County residents' utility fees. Rocky Mount has come up with a solution. Why is that not acceptable to you? If they're gonna use Edgecombe County residents'
Well, they have
monies
they have
for
not
Edgecombe
shared it
County
with us.
students, but that's what they're saying, and they presented it to us. If that's what they've told us, why is that not?
I don't think we
Official
got a
enough for
problem
you?
with that, as long as they treat all the children in the city of Rocky Mount the same.
Well-
If they've got revenue available, and they want to put some money in schools on a per student basis, that's great.
But
But they
Mr.
need to
Davis,
do it
how
for
about
all
if the-
7,000 students that live in the city of Rocky Mount.
Hold your
I mean, why are we gonna pick winners and losers? I mean, you know, way it's been done now, you're picking winners and losers on your own side of Rocky Mount, on the Edgecombe side. You got part of your kids that get that money, you got part of them that do not. That's not fair. Nor is it fair if they want to provide money, it's simple. They need to provide money for all students.
Well, I think you
That's
raise a
conversation
good
you-
point.
Yeah. 'Cause you need to have a
And I don't have
conversation
a
with
problem
Rocky
with
Mount.
that. That's why we have asked for the 3-board meeting.
Exactly. So you
Okay,
asked that.
and I think at this point, on that point, we can ask for that 3-board meeting to see if Rocky Mount has a willingness. That's a good question to raise. I have no problem with Rocky Mount addressing that.
Mr. Chairman, may I make one statement relative to that?
Yes, sir.
If we're talking about sales tax from the Edgecombe side of Rocky Mount, what's that got to do with Nash County, with the Nash side of Rocky Mount? In other words,
It doesn't have anything to do with it. Just take the sales tax from the Nash side and do the same thing.
Oh,
for the
okay,
children
I
on
see
the
what
Nash
you're
side.
saying.
Mr. Davis
You
makes-
wanna do the same thing?
Right.
Mr. Davis makes a good point.
We all desire to treat everybody alike, no matter what we do.
That's
That's
a
the way to
great
do it.
idea.
And I think that is a question for Rocky Mount, and
But you gotta talk to Rocky Mountain for that to happen.
and we need to talk to Rocky Mount. in reference
They need to
that.
talk to
No,
Rocky
I-
Mount.
I don't disagree with that, David.
Right. We talked to them.
Thank you.
No, me.
Right.
There seems to be some movement on that, Mr. Chairman, but, and we have had movement on everything but, numbers. But no, the movement is there a willingness
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Is-
Is there a willingness to talk to Rocky Mount?
to talk to her? Because,
To bring Rocky Mount back to the table as we initially did? Is there a willingness to do that on the Nash side?
Yeah, I had a
On that
feeling,
one-
Mr. Felton, let that question get answered,
well,
please.
I was gonna supplement it.
Let that question get answered, please.
All right.
Well, I would say this, that the majority on this board wants Rocky Mount out of the funding. Now, of course, Commissioner Davis has said that, with the sales tax, that you probably wouldn't have any.
I don't, it doesn't matter to me what kind of funding, where to get the money from. If you get it out of utility fund, as long as we treat all the kids the same.
But we have to ask Rocky Mount that question.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if these two boards can agree on it, I think we could send that to Rocky Mountain and get their thoughts on it.
Well, I'm open to a meeting with them.
Yeah.
I think that,
Let's come to the table.
Okay, I'll ask my board. Are you open to meet to discuss that specific?
I am not, you looking at me? Oh,
I'm
you
looking
go
at
around
all
the
of
table.
you.
Okay, you go ahead, excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I got one question in it, Mr. Belfield, if I may. Is the, where you get your funding from to fund all this stuff from Rocky Mount, or where we get the money that we fund from Nash County side? Well, look, if you get it all out of the Utilities Commission out there, don't do it all in that, because that's not fair to Rocky Mount people. Because they're talking about the people in Rocky Mount that's paying the bill, because they're paying the biggest part of the bill. Because everybody here is paying a high-priced water bill, gas bill, and all of it. I mean, and it shouldn't be any more that way than any other way.
All right. Well, my question to the board is, are you willing to discuss this issue with the city of Rocky Mount?
Mr. Chairman, I will speak for Commissioner number 7, and I still am not willing to sit down with the entire City Council of Rocky Mount based on the conduct of some of the members at the last meeting that we did not attend in here when I personally was attacked, called cowards and numerous other names. I'm old enough and wise enough to understand that I have a tolerance and a terrible temper, and I don't put myself in situations at my age where I will lose that temper, because if you don't believe me, you can ask my wife. It's not pretty when it happens. And therefore, I think it would be a lot more constructive if either a smaller group met with a smaller group, or we structured between these two boards what it is our proposal would be and send it to them and get their response. I don't see any benefit in having, I don't know how many we got at the table now, but I counted one time it would be 28 people with some volatile attitudes, and I will put myself at the first of that list as having one. But my goal is to not let everyone see that in a public meeting. Therefore, I would prefer not to do that.
Okay.
You got
Davis
other members beside,
You do.
there are other members beside, is he speaking for the board?
I spoke for Commissioner number 7.
He
I'm
said
asking the chairman,
said-
are you speaking for the board?
he said he was speaking for Commissioner number 7.
Would you poll the rest of the board?
Any other commissioner want to respond?
Well, it's a simple question, and it sounds like Edgecombe agrees, and we agree. So all we need to do is send that response to Rocky Mount, and it's a simple yes or no from them. to me, that it's just that simple. Well, we'll just have to agree to disagree on that. I don't think we need a 3-hour meeting to ask Rocky Mount, do you agree on what we two have just agreed to?
Right, I agree.
If we can't agree on that and send Rocky Mount, I don't know what the big deal is to get Rocky Mount in the room, because it's our kids, and you're deciding what you can do, we're deciding what we can do, and we have just agreed on that. So will Rocky Mount agree to do that? If they won't, if they say no, I mean, it's not a complicated question. You've laid out the parameters, will they agree? So, ask them.
Mr. Chairman, I told you last night I wanted to be quiet, I really do. But I'm trying to understand, why is it that when facts and figures, general information that is needed, cannot include a third party who can give us the information we want, rather than we sending them a notice? Communication is important. Friendship is important. But being fair is also important. And if people have made up their mind what they're gonna do and what they're not gonna do based on what they've done before, then all these meetings are in vain. And I'm thinking that if Rocky Mount is gonna be included, why can't we talk to them? There may be some other questions that come up that we don't know. And I'm trying to understand how you can spend some folks' money, but don't want them to explain how they're gonna give it to you. I can't check the money at church on Sunday morning and find out where it came from.
Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry. You're a commissioner.
Yeah.
I would, Mr. Wiggins, I would recommend that we ask our county manager to meet with the representative of the City of Rocky Mount. I would request the chairman of the Nash County Commissioners have their representative meet without the entire boards, without even a small group, and we send our agreed upon response and let them answer, and not continue to debate each person's individual opinion about this.
I would just.
You had a response, I mean, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody, and that I understand what the proposal regarding sales tax and Rocky Mount and how it affects the two counties. Do I understand that the proposal, as Mr. Davis suggested in response to using sales tax, is if there's 1,000 kids in the yellow area and say 2,000 in the blue area, both on the Edgecombe side, and say 5,000 on the Nash County Rocky Mount side, that what's being suggested is that a per capita amount of sales tax collected by Rocky Mount from Edgecombe share would go to the yellow and blue area, say $100 or $200 per capita. And we're not saying that?
No. We're saying if the money's going to kids in Nash County, the tax needs to be collected from the Nash
Okay.
side of Rocky Mountain.
That's where I'm headed.
I think what I heard was if the funding is coming from the city of Rocky Mount, if all the churches are funded,
Right.
it can come from the utility fund, don't make any difference.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
so the
That's what I
5,000.
heard. Did I hear that right, Mr. Davis?
The 5,000 kids from Rocky Mount that are in the Nash County system, that are in Nash County, a pro rata share that would be going to the Edgecombe
Yeah.
from Rocky Mount would be going to cover those kids too.
Right,
So say there's 8,000 kids altogether.
yeah.
Say $200 per capita. Now, where does that leave the two counties? If Nash County is providing $1,400 per capita, does that mean that Edgecombe comes up to $1,400 since you're no longer getting an individual separate subsidy from Rocky Mount? I mean, I just want to make sure everybody's.
I hear what you're saying, and I think that, and part of that, to me, and it does need to be clarification on it, and part of that for me would be that one of my reasons why we do need to have this meeting so that there is a clear understanding, because sometimes in the meetings with this level, with this number of people, it's hard, but we need somebody from your board that's at least in opposition that has been in opposition, so that, because they are carrying the weight of the vote. So if there's no consensus coming out of that meeting from at least the opposing, some of the opposing parties, we still don't go anywhere, okay? There has to be somebody that has been voting to take this to the General Assembly, to at least come back and say to the board, we can agree on this, okay? And so that, and I'm saying that to Mr. Wood's point, the managers can't do that. The managers have not been able to do that, okay? And to put that weight on just the managers, there have to be sufficient number of people from the board that would not create a quorum.
Right.
If we're gonna narrow that down, that would not create a quorum.
Well, we've met about that before, Mr. Chairman, and nobody on our side, to my knowledge, has had an issue with meeting like that again, if we should need to.
And I'm gonna say it would be the manager and at least 3 members from the board.
Which is what we did before.
Well, I haven't met, not on a school issue, I might have, I don't know, I can't say I have, because we had so many meetings.
Well, I remember we did, but that don't mean I'm right.
You could be right on that. I'm not gonna say we didn't, okay.
Yes, sir, we did meet.
Well, and I'll take that as, we met, okay, okay.
Well, I remember, Mr. Chairman, because our board decided, since the ones that are in favor or have worked with the General Assembly are in the majority, that we sent 2 members, as well as our chairman, who was not in the majority on that particular part of the issue. That's the only reason I remember that way of leaving.
We've had quite a bit, I'm not gonna say we didn't, okay.
May I ask a question
Go right
for
ahead.
clarification on my part?
Excuse me, before you answer.
Yeah,
Could we be in agreement on that then?
yeah,
Well,
It's fine with me, and I don't mind meeting, being one of the part of the meeting.
I will certainly agree to that.
You,
Commissioner number 7.
You agree? All right.
to a meeting.
Yeah, we
then-
will.
Well, then, what my request is that then we ask both of our managers to set that up. We will decide who will go from here. You all decide who will go there and ask our
We
manager.
can't pick who goes from y'all side.
Huh? You have done everything else. You have picked the way, you have picked the way what we need to do to resolve it, so yeah, go ahead and pick them. Yeah, I'm gonna let Mr. Davis, who would you have come up?
Who the chairman of the Edgecombe County
Well.
Commissioner chooses.
Well,
We agree with that.
I will pick 3 of us from Nash County to,
Including yourself, right?
oh, yes.
So it'd be 2 besides you.
Yeah, 2 beside me.
And we'll let the managers, and we'll let the managers coordinate the meeting. Let our managers coordinate the meeting.
Oh, sure.
Well, I'll put I say, our manager is our contact person for making sure that,
Yeah.
okay.
I was gonna ask a
I don't
question
mind.
of, Mr. Lamb.
We have resolved that one. Good.
We still got one thing
ask-
that's bugging me that I'm not sure. I'm
Your
clear
question is to the board, not to
It's
the manager,
To everybody here.
to the board.
Yeah.
This is a board meeting, okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not to the manager.
Okay.
It's to everybody here. Not sure I understood, maybe I'm a little bit whatever this morning, but.
Slow?
Yeah.
Okay.
If I could,
Is my understanding of this, all right, let's use a hypothetical illustration that says that, in order to, do the gap for our kids for 2017, the amount of money is $500,000, right?
That's a hypothetical, you said.
Hypothetical. Would the Nash County side of Rocky Mount kids also get 500,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's
what I wanted to
I
do.
think that is the question, that's the question that we will address as that committee.
Okay.
Would it be appropriate for these two boards to agree on what you're going to take to the meeting, this, with 3 members from each board?
I think so.
I think not.
Why is that?
I don't think.
But wouldn't it be nice if these two boards had some agreement going in?
Well,
Some understanding?
I think there's,
How can
I think that, Mr. Outlaw, I don't
Well,
think.
I'm sorry you feel that way. I didn't say that. You said that I think Rocky Mount is the enemy.
that's the
Let me,
feeling.
no, I take offense to that. Let me just make one
Well, go
comment.
right ahead.
I was born in the city of Rocky Mount.
Okay.
I've been in this county my whole life. Matter of fact, I was born in Edgecombe County.
Okay.
And I take no offense to the city of Rocky Mount. But let me tell you, I was elected in District 5 by 15,000 Nash County residents. And it is my responsibility to be a good steward for those residents, just like it is your responsibility
Exactly.
to do the same for Edgecombe County.
Mm-hmm.
So again, don't question my relationship with the city of Rocky Mount.
Well, first of all, that's not what I was doing.
Well,
Let's
that's
be very
that's the way
clear
I
on
took
that.
it.
Let's be very clear. That was not what I was saying. I mean, if we're gonna have 3 parties at the table, then why do we have to get together what we're gonna take to them and it's appearing that they are the enemy. They are not the enemy. We are all looking at all the children in both
again,
Edgecombe and Nash County.
I respect your opinion.
Okay,
And I hope you respect mine.
And I do.
Okay, and my
Okay.
opinion is that it would facilitate that discussion if these two boards had some discussion in advance before going into that meeting, which is what we've just been doing, by the way.
I think this is the discussion.
There needs to be some general agreement.
Well, I think the general agreement, I think, is that we have agreed, we don't disagree that if Rocky Mount would consider the funding of all the students, some funding of all the
That's a big
students.
agreement
Now,
right there.
but, and where, now, I think that where we get to in that meeting, in terms of what their willingness to do, okay, will leave us at maybe a decision on what we might need to get to. I think we do have an agreement, in terms of, and that agreement is that we would like to, we can see Rocky Mount in the funding process if they come to some type of consensus.
Then I would like to see our county manager document what we have agreed to this point before we go into that meeting. I want some understanding before we have that meeting as to what we're going in and offering to the city of Rocky Mount. That's fair. That's reasonable.
Well, we have agreed to request that of them. Okay.
Now,
I don't
I
know
need
if
to
you're
make
hearing
it
what I'm
clear.
saying.
Go ahead.
I need to make it clear what my statement meant.
That's right.
If Rocky Mount's gonna provide funding for schools, which, you know, by statute, the way the other counties and cities operate throughout the state, they don't have any responsibility in that. We got a special statute that says they do.
But they are operating legally.
They are indeed operating legally.
Because the statute does give them that authority.
I think we have made it very clear we understand that. But under the scenario that I said, if they want to put money in and they got money available, that's wonderful, as long as they treat all the children the same. But that's still gonna leave y'all with a gap. Because if they give your student $500, let's say $200 over there, they're gonna give us $200. If we happen to be more than what y'all are, you still got a gap to fill, or some children are not gonna be funded at the same level.
All of that is open to discussion.
That's correct.
All of that is open to, we are not agreeing to that going into the meeting.
I understand that.
That is open for discussion. Okay.
I'm just saying.
I hear you, I hear you.
I just wanted to
That's the
understood.
point that Mr. Lamb was making.
Right,
That's the same.
that's exactly what he was saying.
That's what Mr. Lamb was making.
But you need to understand, as Mr. Outlaw pointed out, this board is elected to represent Nash County. And we are getting hammered to death to get this problem resolved. And the only way to do it is for either Rocky Mount to get out of the funding or fund us all at the same level. That's the two things that resolve number 3.
Well, and, we believe that, you know, they're doing what they ought to do, okay? In terms of.
Well, if you have the mentality that Rocky Mount ought to provide assistance, public assistance to schools for a portion of the kids that live in Rocky Mount, then, you know, if that's the thought that your board has, I don't know how we will ever resolve it, because we don't feel that way.
Well,
particularly when they're using money from the Nash side to do it with.
Well, we've had a whole lot of thoughts over here and we've changed some of our thoughts.
I understand, and we appreciate every change that you've made.
None of the thoughts over there have changed yet.
Oh.
So we have a willingness, we do have a willingness to.
Well, I certainly disagree with that statement, because.
I think we would all disagree with that statement.
Well, that's what we're here to agree and disagree.
Sure.
And, go ahead, Mr.
Excuse me,
Mayor.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm just gonna say that, I think you said that, thoughts haven't changed. They have changed, because when they started off, they didn't want Rocky Mount funding any kind of fund into it, especially gas utilities to pay it.
And that's
And
what
now, they are saying that we can work this thing out.
Yeah, I agree with that too, Mr. Belfield. I think the thing is that we might be, you know, we recognize that Rocky Mount, Nash County is a richer county than we are. We understand that, okay? And we understand that if we get this agreement with the city of Rocky Mount, if they're kind enough and generous enough to go along with it, that it's going to enhance the schools in Nash County. We understand that. It's always been that way. And we're not expecting this agreement to make a change on it. What we were trying to do right now is survive. We're not trying to catch up with you in one giant leap. Okay? Let's talk, let's put the cards on the table. We understand these things. It's like comparing Duke University with, I ain't gonna say who. Don't worry about it. I ain't no Carolina fan. How about that?
I think if Mr. Farley were here today, he would take serious issue with that comment, because I believe.
I've heard him, I was in attendance at a speech he made
Mr.
within the last month,
Mr. Phelps.
that he
I'm not gonna try to
acknowledged that
talk
we
over
have a
you.
long way to go up.
Mr. Phelps.
I believe Mr. Farley would say today that the quality of education in Edgecombe County,
I didn't say anything about the quality.
that's kind of what you were saying.
No, it wasn't what I
Edgecombe
was
students
saying.
get the same quality education they get in Nash.
I didn't say that. I said we're making the same attempts, but we're not there. We don't have facilities. We don't have libraries. We don't have theaters in our schools. We don't have stuff that enhance a kid's education that you do.
Let's see, and we don't have
You spend
this.
more
we don't
money
have-
on it than we do.
We don't have what Wake
Ask
County
Ms.
has.
Wilson,
I mean,
she's here. She's chairman of our Board of Education is here.
This is
They do
right.
a tremendous job. Don't try to say that I'm saying that the
Order,
level of
order.
education in Edgecombe County
Let
is
me
poor,
have
because it's
everybody's
not.
attention.
Mr. Phelps.
Let me have everybody's attention. This discussion is not where I would love to see it.
Well,
Let's
it's
talk.
where it's the truth.
And I don't mean that you got to agree with everything that we said, but this argument back and forth like you shooting at personalities, we need to stop. And let's get down.
But Mr.
and
Davis'
talk-
term is, this is a discussion.
Well, this is, I'm talking to everybody. Vote for it. Now, do we all agree that we have both sides?
We can agree.
That we have 2 county managers and 3 commissioners meet
can
with the
agree.
city of Rocky Mount.
We can agree.
Agreement? All right. Now, the 3 from Nash County, I'm gonna ask Commissioner Davis and Commissioner Outlaw and myself to be the 3 commissioners. That okay with the rest of you? All right. We have our group.
Mine to be determined.
Right. We'll have 3.
Mr. Chairman, at appropriate time, I'd like to ask you.
All right. Any further discussion on 3? Number 3.
We all right, Mr. Chairman.
You okay? All right, we'll just leave that one alone. We're okay. We're gonna settle that when we meet with the city. Let's go down to 6, where there was no agreement.
Before we go to 6, let's talk about 4 a little bit.
Well, why don't we walk down each one of them and discuss as much as we can about them and get as far as we can today. We're all here, we're all busy, and anything we can iron out would be, that's where you started, Mr. Chairman. That's what I was gonna see if you'd be willing to do, is continue that process.
Number 4, is my understanding that they did agree, right?
Well, I just need clarification on the comment that was said, Nash Rocky Mount School Flex.
That was mine.
Go ahead, Alan.
That was one of my suggestions. The flexibility I'm talking about is if there's a teacher who teaches on a side, but lives on another side, that her child
Standard stuff.
would be able to attend where she's teaching, you know, for the flexibility of that
We
parent.
do that already.
But that's what I'm just saying, we wanted to
Okay.
make sure
So
that that was
is the
still.
flexibility, okay, that's
That
already
was-
in place.
Yeah,
Well, but it wouldn't be in place
according to that.
according to this.
Understood.
Right. I just
That's
want to
what
make
you're
sure it
talking about.
remains.
That's why we should do that. That's easy.
Right.
And I personally agree that, you know, school boards need flexibility. Schools get crowded, in other situations. School boards need flexibility, but we can agree on that.
Okay. All right, let's go down to number 7.
Mr. Davis won't go at them one by one.
And I believe you say your attorney advised you that you should be in. Well, you're funding the National Rocky Mountain School System, why not?
Where you at, Mr.
Well,
Chairman?
for number 7, Mr. Chairman, I believe that, the statutes already give the school boards the authority, sufficient statute, the school board can sue anyway. They can't sue you now because there's a moratorium on that. But the school board, had the school board made a decision to sue us at that time, they could. And I think you're a fool to agree to be a co-defendant and in anything. And we're gonna differ all day on being agreed. If you, the school board, at that time, we were not part of the, we were fulfilling our obligation, I guess, under the present statute. And so we're gonna have zero movement on that.
All right, well, let's talk about it.
Yes, sir. That's all right, it is.
Okay,
We're
let's
talking
just say that they still have this authority. Of course, now we're working to prevent that from happening, that we sit down and negotiate. And hopefully one day that will become the state law. But let's say, all right, let's just say Nash Rocky Mountain School System sue Nash County for more funding. All right, you all are part of that funding. Whatever comes out of that, would you all agree that you do your portion?
Well, I think what we're working on now, if we're a part of this funding process and the school board is seeking funding, they're gonna sue us. They're gonna sue the funding, and if
Now,
there's
which school board are you talking about?
we're talking about Nash Rocky Mountain
That's
School Board.
okay.
We're talking about Nash Rocky Mountain School Board.
Okay.
If we're talking about becoming, we're talking about doing things that we have not presently been doing, okay? So the requests are gonna be made to us, and if we don't fulfill our obligation on those requests, we are open for the school board to make those decisions and how they're gonna pursue to get that. And for us to agree to legislation to be a co-defendant with you or with anybody, we're not gonna get a majority of this board on that one.
Mr. Chairman, a couple clarifications.
Well,
It was stated that there's a moratorium. We're in the 2nd year of that moratorium, and it was a 2-year moratorium.
This is last year, right?
So next year, we're no longer under that moratorium. We are next year in the 3rd year of an agreement on funding with the school system, which preempts so long as we fulfill our obligation, that they will not sue us under that statute.
And if we don't entertain an agreement and don't fulfill our obligations on an agreement, then the school board gonna sue us and you. So I don't see where we would enter into becoming a co-defendant in some legislation.
But I still go back to what I said, the outcome of it, in an agreement, and it calls for more funding.
I think we're gonna get sued under this scenario. We're gonna be named. Under the scenario that's being proposed, we're gonna be named anyway. But I don't think that we're going to, we're not gonna agree to be a part of legal action and automatically say, you got to name us.
Okay, any discussion from Nash County Board on that issue? I made my suggestions.
And I think we feel very strongly that if we're going to be co-partners in funding the school system, we need to have the liability co-partner as well as the expense of defending ourselves. We know that when we got the first suit, which is the first time we'd ever been sued or the process started, it was only Nash County. And that's what we expect it would probably be the next time. So that's why it's on the list.
Well, I think we were not named because we were fulfilling our obligation.
You were fulfilling your obligation under the current statute.
Right, and I'm saying that in this case, we're not talking about that statute. We're talking about a new statute. So school board, I think the school board, and also the school board is going to name funding partners. And the funding partners would be Edgecombe and Nash. And Nash could have also requested that we be joined. So if that was an issue, Nash County can do that on their own. But I think,
had it moved forward, I'm sure we would have done that.
and so I'm saying that the legal to agree, I don't think none of us would sit here and agree to be co-defendants with our brothers and sisters. If they're gonna get sued on something, none of us would agree to that as individuals. Right. So my leadership to the board is no. In other words, if that's a deal killer,
Yeah.
the deal is killed.
Is that firm with y'all? I mean, when you're gonna have the legal recourse that he's talking about, it's not, we're not gonna be able to prevent ourselves from being included. So how could that possibly be a deal breaker for y'all? I can't figure that. I just can't understand what your thinking is on that. I wish you would tell us.
Mr. Felton, I can't understand why y'all are not willing to share
We
that
don't
risk with
volunteer
us.
to be sued by anybody. And
Well,
we get
we aren't either.
We get sued enough without volunteering.
Mr. Felton, our position is stated, and as Mr. Belfield said, we're not in argument. So our position is stated. We do not need to defend that any further.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well, before we leave the subject, I want to ask you a question. Our position is stated, but are you talking about we're responsible for 11.8% of the legal funding? Or are you talking about 50% of the funding? Here again, we're at the mercy that we don't have any control in the situation. We're 11.7% of the population, and the other, whatever it is, 88.3% is running the ballgame.
We're talking we're talking about on a percentage basis, based on your
Just wanted to
student
clarify.
enrollment. And that could change from year to year. It could go up or down based on the number of students.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we do have movement. I think Mr. Davis' request was go ahead through some of the others. If you go back and go through the others, if you let Mr. Davis maybe raise questions in terms of what he's got on those others, that we might.
Well, Mr. Chairman, you know, we marked 3, and we know where we are on 3, we know where we are on 7, 5 and 6, you agree without any changes according to my notes, so we got 1, 2, and we have agreed now on 4 that the question was, or the possibility of an exception was the parents that had students in the school system.
Right.
So 1 and 2 is the only thing left that we need to discuss, Mr. Chairman, if my notes are correct.
Yes, on number 1, we talked about working out the funding. They won't know what the funding costs would be projected.
Right. And I don't know why that really matters from my standpoint, simply because whatever it is, and whatever you want your students, the environment that you go to school in, is totally in y'all's control, which you're gonna be much better off than where you are today, as history has shown.
I think we discussed number 1 already, and have answered that question.
Do we agree on that, then?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, right. That's right. The only,
Please keep it straight.
it appears to me that the only hang-up is down there on 7.
Well, let's look at 2.
If I could, on the flexibility on transfers, I just want to make it clear that that wouldn't be limited just to teachers' children. There might be other accommodations that the school board may have to make beyond just children of parents going to a school in the opposite county.
Well, I think.
But that would be I think state law deals with the rights of school boards to grant transfers. So I just don't want y'all to think it's just talking about parents. There would be other cases where
I think we were using that just as an example.
Okay.
We'll follow the current policy
And
dictated by
Well,
the state.
Mr. Lamb makes a very good point, and I think that's one of the things I was trying to get to. For us not to limit or try to limit the discretion of the board, and that's what that was doing. And we can only limit it according to what you're saying, according to state law. That they abide, school boards gonna abide by state law, and I have no problem with those, whatever exceptions those school boards can provide.
There could be ADA
And
requirements, needs.
And I think that we could deal with whatever the language needs to be in that, if it's all right. I agree with that. You seem to be, you got a problem with that?
I don't know how open-ended that is.
Well, I don't,
It's
but
something
state
we'll have
law,
to clear up moving forward.
we can deal with state law.
Right.
We'll deal with state law.
Yeah. As long as we understand that whatever movement that creates, it has to create an equal movement in the sharing of cost of it.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
That goes with the kids.
We'll deal with state law.
Sure.
All right, any further discussion on any of the others, where we're not clear?
My note on 2, Mr. Chairman, says agree, no funding for schools not listed. What did that mean?
It means
I
that.
mean, what was y'all's comment on
It means
that?
we're talking about the early college and the Tar River Academy.
I think Eric made the comment. What exactly does that mean?
Yes, sir. I think the understanding from the board was that it explicitly, it lists in your proposal that it to be maintenance cost debt service for the early college Tar River Academy based on students' attendance. And then, of course, with the previous, number 1 being, if we agree to it, that all of the schools on the Edgecombe County side of Rocky Mount. So we just wanted to make sure that it was clarified. Then that would mean we would have no responsibility in any of the other schools not listed, that being schools over on Nash County side.
Have we missed, we were attempting to list those facilities that high school kids potentially would
That's
attend.
correct.
Have we missed anything, or those 3? That's
No,
it, isn't it?
Not to our knowledge. I don't know. We didn't check to see if you had missed
Okay.
it. Only thing, we were replying to what was on the list.
Sure. So you're just clarifying the fact that you're taking 1, so we're taking everything else except for these 3.
Exactly.
Okay.
That was what you sent to us.
Well, that's right.
We
I
just wanted to
understand what you're
clarify.
saying now,
Yes, sir.
and that's certainly, yes, was our intent.
Okay.
Is there anything else?
Yeah, I was just getting ready to ask, is there anything else we need to talk about? Well, I just
Is there
want,
anything else from our board? Hearing none, Mr. Chairman, I believe, Mr.
Well, I'm still, Mr. Chairman, a little bit perplexed on two. Excuse me, on three. To make sure we understand that what we're gonna talk to Rocky Mount about, and we seem to have somewhat an agreement of how Rocky Mount should be funded, it leaves that gap. So do we acknowledge the gap and we move forward, knowing the gap is there?
We're acknowledging that we have set this meeting for a discussion with Rocky Mount.
Okay.
Okay? That's what we acknowledge.
Do we understand that there's still the gap that's there?
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Okay. There is no consensus here in
Yes, sir.
terms
I understand
of,
we
we're not
don't
gonna
have
limit our discussion.
Sir?
You can we all carrying our positions to the city.
Sure.
What we come out with, we don't know.
Okay, understood. I just.
Just on number 3, that's what you're talking
That's
about.
what.
Right, just on number 3, I just wanna make sure we know what my statement meant.
I understand.
I'm
your
not trying
statement.
to change your
I
mind.
understand your
move you anywhere.
statement.
Okay,
You understand my statement.
I fully understand.
Okay, I understand fully, your statement.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question just for clarification
sir.
for my notes? So when we talk about if we were to proceed and Rocky Mount agreed, the gap that remained would be, right now they are paying the difference between the two school systems for what we put on the 2,000 or so students on the Edgecombe County side. We're asking, the ask will be to Rocky Mount to provide that same for the Nash County students on or the Rocky Mount students on the Nash County side.
As well as the Rocky Mount students on the Edgecombe County side that are within the city limits.
That's right.
So all kids will be treated alike.
That's right, but then what that will create is there will be a difference between the per student for the Nash County students outside of Rocky Mount city limits.
For the Rocky Mount. No, for the Rocky.
Indeed, it would be. That is correct.
I just want to make sure I understand.
Yep.
okay, anything else?
We seem to have a little bit of time. I've got a couple of questions I'd like to ask if I can have an agreement up front that I'm just trying to learn and not trying to alienate.
I think that's what this meeting for.
Okay.
We'll
that okay?
answer the best way we can.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I just wonder, and I want to ask the question, has the Edgecombe County Commissioners ever studied what it would look like to have a county line merger from a financial standpoint? Because I just feel like, and I don't have a gain, I don't have a part in it, I understand, but I just feel like your school system would be so much better off. And I almost wonder if we are looking at a problem, the real problem being maybe related to sports or something. I can't understand what the problem is, why it's not worth y'all's board at least looking at what the model would look at from a financial standpoint. Because in reality, every way I look at it, y'all would be better off, we would be worse off, but yet it would resolve this issue forevermore, and we wouldn't be having discussions on numbers for the rest of our life. But have y'all ever actually looked at that model to see what you would look like after that?
Can I respond to that, Mr. Wiggs? Yes, sir. I actually had a meeting with Dr. Farley 2 years ago about this. Now, we didn't analyze every fact and every figure, but we did discuss it. And as you know, we are stuck with facilities that are subpar for sure, so there would be a great deal of expense, which we really can't put a handle on right now. Second of all, then we have to look at the busing issue. We have to look at what's going to happen there. And most importantly, I absolutely agree with you. I think from a financial standpoint, it will be a deal killer for you guys based on what that I have read and studied because of the different sources of funding. But at the same time, we don't have enough, in-depth study enough to say what it would actually do for us. And again, that was just an informal discussion with our superintendent as to what would happen or how it could happen and the things that we would need to factor in and look at the economics of the whole matter. But our biggest,
I think it's not all financial. There's a tremendous amount of moral and goodwill and families and community not being broken up.
and I raised this point much earlier to you, I think, in a discussion one day. When you get to the bottom line, this town is so divided, this is the final nail in the coffin. You say what you please, it's the final nail in the coffin. If everybody could forget dollars and cents, and I know they can't do that, and they won't do that, they'll never do that. You know, I don't have any control how the state takes my tax revenues and spends them in different places either, and that's what we're talking about here. Tax money spent everywhere, it's not obligated to any one thing, it goes wherever the people determine it needed. But the bottom line, again, and I've told you this before, you and I said this before, I told you this one day at the end of the discussion. It is not good for the city of Rocky Mount. And we can sit here all day long and try to ignore that we're not tied to the city of Rocky Mount, but in fact we are. And we will forever be tied to the city of Rocky Mount. And it's just a shame we can't all learn to work together instead of constantly tearing each other apart. And that's all I got.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's deeper than I think it'll resegregate us. I'm not one for dancing around issues or of dodging tough questions, okay? I don't claim to be right all the time, but I claim to be honest, and I claim to be forthright. And I think it will resegregate the city of Rocky Mount. It's more than it already is. And that's against the law. I don't think you guys will have a leg to stand on if you went that way. I agree, we would definitely be better off financially. I went through that consultant's report that y'all had done very carefully. And I know we would be better off financially. That's a whole lot of money coming back to Edgecombe County with those kids that are in your senior high school. But it's a cultural thing. We are trying to be one people on God's earth and not be divided like we have been, more than we already are. And to me, that's more important than the money. I'm not a citizen of Rocky Mount. I have been in the past. I lived over here when I first got out of college. And I know that this city is divided down racial lines, okay? That's as fair and honest as a statement as I know how to make. I don't like it being that way. Segregation was done away with when I was a senior in high school, and that was a long time ago. And if we're going to resegregate this city legally, we're going to have issues on that with the federal courts. You can't do that. It's against the law, okay? So we need to consider all this. That's just all my thought about it.
Ms. Harris?
My concern is, we're an elected body. Nash Rocky Mount School Board is an elected body. Edgecombe County Public Schools is an elected body. And I believe, you talked about thinking about that, we're the funders. Those are the two entities that would need to think about that and sit down and look at their numbers, because they're the ones who are obligated to educate the children. We are obligated to fund schools. But when it comes to making a decision about those schools, I believe the school board, that's what they were elected to do. And they would have to sit down with their superintendents and their finance officers and see the pros and the cons to your suggestion. I don't believe that's something that we as a Board of County Commissioners should be sitting here saying, why haven't we thought about it? We weren't elected as school board members. We were elected as county commissioners to fund what our school board comes up as the best thing for all of our children. And if they haven't sat down together and came up with that proposal, I don't think it's something that I need to be sitting here trying to decide. I wasn't elected as a school board member.
If I could address a couple of points, particularly the knowledge that you made, I would tend to agree with you a lot more if indeed all of the children in Rocky Mountain on the Edgecombe side currently attended the school, your points would have a lot more validity. I really don't see it as splitting it because it's already split. Your own children get treated differently in your county depending on where they live in Rocky Mountain. So that's one point. You know, that doesn't make it crystal clear what you're saying. And Mr. Felton, you know, I made it clear the last meeting I think that we had that I don't look at the race factor involved in this.
I wasn't talking about you.
I know you won't, but it's you know, the numbers do not change that much. We actually presented the numbers, how they do look before and after. It is some change. It's not a lot of change, but I wonder, would it be different here today if 90% of the children were indeed white children? Would this be easier?
The children are black.
I understand.
So we're dealing with what is.
I understand, but
I
my
would feel
question
better,
was, would it be
If you
easier?
allow me 1 second, I would feel better if we had a recommendation from our school board. Like I just said in previous meetings, we depend on school matters
Right.
to be settled by, just like Ms. Harris just said. We like to hear what they want to do and then see if we can financially afford what they want to do. But go ahead with your statement.
Mr. Davis, Mr. Davis, everything you've said is, a lot of what you've said is, you want to be fair for us, Edgecombe side.
I want to be fair for everybody.
But you put emphasis on what you're doing for us on the Edgecombe side. And
Go ahead.
that,
I don't understand your statement quite yet, but maybe I will.
where you split, that our school system is split, and that all children are not being treated equally on the Edgecombe side, and you want that to be fair. And I think our position is that we treat the children that were previously in the Rocky Mountain system are being treated as they were all of our lives. They're being treated no difference. They are in a system that they were already in. So we are treating the children of Edgecombe County as we have all of our lives. They have been separate. They have been in the Rocky Mountain school system, and they went from the Rocky Mountain school system to the Nash Rocky Mountain school system. That boundary that was set is the same boundary that still is, okay?
I understand that point, but you also got to understand that we have many kids on Nash side, or all of our kids had never attended a school that had students that lived in Rocky Mountain or that lived in Edgecombe County. So, you know, that statement works both ways. And we're way beyond that point. I don't see that as been one of our problems.
Well, I see it as when many of your statements are what's fair for us. And the Nash County Commission has presented to us what's fair for us, what's good for us. And we have those decisions to make, what's good and fair for us.
In saying that, I think I'm attempting to defend the position that we have, that we feel like we're not doing anything that's detrimental to anybody. And that's the reason it's presented that way.
And
I certainly don't intend to try to do y'all's business when I can't even do my own business on this side.
Well, everything that's been proposed has been doing our business, as I see it, in terms of, it's an issue that was raised, that has been raised by your board. We are here because the Nash County Commissioners have raised this as a problem.
Correct.
Okay, it was no problem until it was raised.
And we raised it because we are getting hammered by our
And in the process, we feel like we're being talked down to, like we're beneath. And that, you know, I'm not saying that you feel that way or anybody on that board feels that way, but it's a feeling that is conveyed to us because you're setting all the guidelines. You give us the 6, 7 lists that we have to agree to or not agree to. We didn't have any input in these 7 issues right here.
Well, let me.
But we don't want to get back into that.
We do have input. Our input is that we disagree. Okay. On those points that we do disagree. Okay.
It's about time to.
But Mr. Chairman, with no disrespect to you, I think it's a good discussion. Okay. And I think it's fair, for, if Mr. Davis got other questions that he wants to address, it's a good meeting for us, and as Mr. Davis put it, I'm not gonna call it an argument, it's a discussion. And it's a good discussion.
Well, that's what I want to.
It's a good discussion for us to have.
A good discussion is fine, but I don't want no name calling or anything.
Well, I don't think we're directing, we're directing questions, I mean,
Because
maybe
when you start
responses.
doing that, you're not making progress.
Well, I think it was Mr. Davis' question, and the response was back to him, because he wanted the response to that question. He raised the question, and that, it's not, if it's any attempt over here to get personal, I try to stop it. Okay.
My comment.
I try to keep this board in check as relates to raising personal. It is not for us to try not to get personal, but I think it's an open discussion, and if we get these on the table, at least we have our positions, and we might not like what each other say, but it needs to be said. And it needs to be said, and the feelings of each member, if it gets on the table, we can better deal with what we're dealing with.
Mr. Chairman, I would yield any future questions to yourself or other members of the board.
Yeah, Commissioner Morgan wants to speak.
Is this fair to everybody here, to every person here, no matter what his color, race, whatever it is, male or female? It's everybody's a person, and everybody's got the same right to do or whatever he does to do, has to do. But it's not right to sit down here and tell you what, I can't tell you what to do, and you can't tell me what to do. But we should be doing it for the people of this county and this state and this city. Not just because it's a line drawn out there. But what is the difference between being on that side of the line and this side of the line?
That's right.
Can you tell me that?
Well, I would answer that question if I think fair is, I think we might define, individually, we define fair differently. And I think fair is what, anytime we can come to, at least we can come to a consensus on some of the things that's presented, we individually, all of us begin to think that it's fair. But we bring, what's fair, I think we bring different definitions to the table. And it's a hard question to answer, Mr. Morgan, in terms of what's fair, because what you believe to be fair and what I believe to be fair might be entirely different.
Well, either one of them should be fair to each other.
And I think we are.
We must be think because if we didn't, we didn't really have all this discussion.
Right. I believe the discussion's good, Mr. Morgan.
Yeah, sometimes.
And I think that's the reason that we're here, and the reason that at least I think we've had some progress in terms of where we are, and we might not fully get there, but we can narrow our differences.
I agree, Mr. Chairman. I think we made a lot of progress today.
I think if we 3 weeks ago we were not here, we were not narrowing our difference.
Right.
We've had I think, while we differ, as many of your board members have said, our responsibilities are to protect the jurisdictions that we serve, and how we do that sometimes is different, and the way we feel about it is different. Are there any further questions? Hearing no further questions from our board, Mr. Chairman, back to you.
I'll have one of these, may I finish, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What have we accomplished when we get through? What is the results of what we're doing? What have we said what is the results of what we have talked about? Would you mind telling us that?
Well, I think we have agreed on some of the proposals that your board presented, Mr. Morgan. I think we have agreed on some, and we've disagreed on some, and we've also agreed to a meeting with Rocky Mount to see if we can resolve another. So several of the items that you've talked about, there's been some movement on it. So I think there's been some agreement here. Specifically, I think your chairman and your manager then will sum it up in terms of where they feel it is, and we will sum it up in terms of where we feel it is. And I can't, but we have made some progress here on what Nash County proposed.
What Nash County proposed or what we control?
What was your proposal as a resolution to how this would proceed?
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, yes,
Could we possibly schedule this meeting within the week?
I would hope so.
Would that be reasonable?
Yeah.
We'll make immediate contact with
That's right, within a week. Well, let me,
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to have a few comments, please. I have listened to all this, and to me, it is very complicated, and, you know, when you get two different personalities together, it's kind of hard to come to a conclusion and understand whether the sun is shining out there today or not. But I just feel like with what we're working with, for one thing, we all will have different opinions. That's everywhere you go. But I feel like we need to put our personalities aside and our personal thoughts. As Mr. Wiggins just said, every time we have a meeting, hopefully we'll learn something from it, because no one person know it all. I have learned that. But I'm hoping that, and Ms. Harris mentioned this, I don't think it's ever, I can't remember being mentioned that the school board, any consideration brought from them. Maybe if we listen to them a little bit, they could help us on this a little bit, you know, and I don't think that was done intentionally. We all miss things, that's human. But when you recognize what you missed on it, go back, pick it up and see, is it gonna work for us? Can we place it to help us? And it is a whole lot to do, but we can, but we're going both sides, all parties, 3, 4, 5, whatever you put together. We're gonna have to give some. We don't particularly like, no, but if it's gonna work, maybe it won't work, but at least let's be willing to try it and see if it will work. And meeting with Rocky Mount with those, this committee going in to meet with them, I just ask that you pray over it and go in it with an open mind and listen. Not saying that you got to do what we said, we don't have to do what you said, but we're gonna listen and see if we can. It can be, this puzzle can be put together. But we all got to come to the table and don't say this, I'm not gonna let this piece go in there and throw it in the trash can. That's why we're where we are today, because we don't listen to each other, we don't talk, because you don't think like I do, so I just cut you off. And I have learned that don't work. Even with your children, raise them at home. You know they're wrong as 2 left shoes, but sometimes you got to let them bump their head before they know it'll hurt. So, and then you can come back and tell them, I told you it was hurting, and let me give you aspirin, it'll be better. So, it's complicated, it really is, but I'm hoping that these 2 boards, when you meet the 3 together, we can come to some conclusion, because this just don't make sense for all these grown, educated folks in here doing this every other week or something. We just beating ourselves there going backwards. But and I know we can do it. I believe we can. But we got to open our hearts first and our minds and work together, and it can be done. But we got to be able to give and take. No, it didn't go my way today. I'll work on it again tomorrow. Thank you.
You're not gonna call my wife, are you?
I got it on my iPad right now.
Any other commissioner before I make my final comments today? Yes.
Only thing I'd like to say, Mr. Chairman, is I greatly appreciate you putting together this 7-point list. There's some things in there that us that have been involved in this the most, I think, hadn't thought of. I don't know how much time you spent on it, but it certainly got us to a point where I hope we're moving forward, and I just wanted to personally thank you for it.
Well, I was gonna say, well, I'm gonna close it out. I was gonna say this, I believe in prayer, and prayer changes things. And I prayed a long time. I did a lot of thinking along with my prayer, but I put this together in 30 minutes. And I believe God was leading me. And a lot of thoughts came in mind, because I've heard one about segregation. Well, that came in my mind when I put in there that the Edgecombe County students residing on the Edgecombe County side in the Rocky Mount system will attend the schools on Edgecombe. And the reason that I put that in there was that it's been a study and proposed that they close the Parker Middle School. And that board had discussed that even before that study came up with that same thing. And to me, it would be devastation that you don't have schools existing on that side, because young people not gonna move in an area in a community where you don't have schools, especially with your beginners, elementary and middle. And so that was the reason for that. But let me just say, where we started, from the beginning of this, I was against splitting the Rocky Mount school system. And that's when I started praying, Lord, how can we handle this and not split up the Nash Rocky Mount system? And I thought and prayed over it for a year. And one day I was sitting down there at my table, and I was doing some other issues, and this thing came to me again. And that's when I sit there and spend about 30 minutes and put these 7 points together. And I want to thank the Nash County Board for accepting, because we were split. Some want to do it, solve this issue of funding by having Nash County school system and Rocky Mount school system split at the county line. I didn't want that, and there were several reasons I didn't want that. I was thinking about looking at the area when we're trying to recruit industries to come in, and they see us all divided and split and warring, and I felt like it would have an impact. Some on the board didn't agree that it would, but I still believe that. And so this is why I came up with this, is to try to hold the school system together. And it may not be perfect, but it's what God led me to do, come up with. And I want to thank the board and thank Edgecombe County too for at least looking at this and considering it as a possibility for the solution for the funding in Nash Rocky Mountain school system. Those that came to sit in and listen, we thank you for coming. We know you have an interest in it. I had not been getting many comments from out in the county on the splitting of the school system, but in the past 3 weeks, well, better say a month, that some citizens out in the county have contacted me and said, Bearfield, you need to do something. They didn't say split. They said you need to do something about the funding, because we believe we are overburdened as it relates to the funding of the Nash Rocky Mountain school system. I had some, not that many, but some, and it was a cross-section across the county that spoke to me about it. And we had gone on about a year, and no one had said anything to me about it, but they began to start speaking. And I'm praying and continue to pray and hope that this will solve the funding and keep our school system moving, and let's do all we can for the twin counties to make it a place where people would want to come and live. And we got to start with our school system, and along with that, economic development, and the two go hand in hand. And I want to thank both boards for making this progress, because if we had not, we were looking at a split of the school system of the city of Rocky Mount, that county line. And that was what I want to avoid, and I think we may be on the right track to keep that from happening. Nothing else. We will hope to put this meeting together. Maybe we can meet next week. We may not be able to name the date today, but sometime next week that we.
Well, I think whatever our committee is, we'll be prepared to meet when the managers tell us. If it's next week, it's all right with us.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I have one more statement if I might make. I would.
okay, I had planned to close it out with my statement, but what is,
Are we going by needs or wants? What are we doing?
well, both, we got both of them in there. Both.
I don't, define it out when you get through, when you get there next time you present a motion. Find out what your needs are, what your wants are. So don't go into all needs or all wants. Go by what they need, not what they want.
Well, you got to put the combination of the two. Yeah, but decision sometimes it ends up on what you need. And if you have any extra, then you do what you want.
You get what you want or need, or who's gonna pay?
Well, taxpayers.
Hey, absolutely, that's my only question.
All right.
Go ahead.
You got lunch for us?
Yes, it's not Doug Sauls, it's Milton and Miles.
Well, we're gonna have lunch, whatever you got.
All right, if nothing else to come before us, and according to our agenda, this should be it. We have lunch, but I'm going to declare this meeting for Nash County.
I guess we're gonna recess to when we get together again.
Well, I think we're meeting, that's not a quorum today.
I don't think we
Oh,
need
that's for
that.
you all, that's for you all, okay.
Yeah, I mean us.
Okay, you all,
Yeah.
okay, you're.
This is a special meeting. We recessed yesterday to the next
Yeah,
meeting.
exactly, yeah, for this, we don't need to recess. I'm going to declare Nash County Board of Commission adjourned, and we will schedule a meeting where we have the committee and managers meet with City of Rocky Mountain.
Motion to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned.
Second question, all in favor, let me know by voting sign aye. All opposed, hearing none, we stand adjourned.